So recently, my channel has been experiencing a rather unbelievable growth spurt. Okay, I'm averaging, something between 800-900 new subscribers a day, something like 60,000 daily views. Now, that's an enormous growth spurt, considering that I've had my channel up and running since, let me see, I started posting content in like April of 2017. And so roughly a year and a half. And these last couple of months have been, just gangbusters. I've tripled my subscriber base and my daily views have gone up tenfold, roughly. And now here's the thing, when something like that happens, when you're sort of like steady and all of a sudden you explode, right? Well, then you start getting very nervous about it, okay? You can wind up chasing the dragon. I did a video about chasing the dragon. You can find it right here. Now, the thing is, see, it got me thinking, this sudden growth spurt, okay? And it got me thinking about worry, about how I used to worry about things and what I used to worry about. And it's an important point, and I want to discuss in this video. Now, let me ask you if the following sounds like a story you've heard before. Something is going on, something either good or bad, right? And you start to worry about things that are really not within your control. You start to worry about whether this person is going to say this to that person, and which will create this condition which might be beneficial or detrimental to you, right? You start worrying about things that are way outside the scope of your control. I mean, it happened to me all the time when I was growing up. When I was younger, in my 20s and my 30s, I would worry about things that I had absolutely no control over. Like right now with the sudden growth spurt of my channel on YouTube. I don't have any control over it. I have no idea why YouTube decided to bless me with this large audience and all these views. I have no idea. Because, like, for instance, back in early June, I had a video that went viral called Never Date Anyone Over the Age of 25. And I did that video way back in September of 2017, 9 months before. And the video had only performed, no different from any of the other videos I'd done. And then all of a sudden in early June, the thing just took off all on its own, right? It was like the weirdest thing. It just took off. I remember that weekend that it took off, right? For various reasons, I didn't have access to a computer. So I had no idea why all of a sudden, as I looked on my phone, my channel subscriber base was exploding, And I was like, what the hell is going on? And I was delighted, but completely confused. And that whole weekend, I had no idea as to why or what was the reason behind this sudden explosion. And to this day, I really don't know. It exploded. I think I had 18,000 subscribers at the end of May. And I was perfectly content with that. And then all of a sudden, boom. And what happened was that shortly after that, another video I'd done about damaged women, that also went viral. I mean, it went even bigger than the previous one. And that also garnered me a huge influx of new subscribers and new viewers. And I'm grateful. I mean, it's terrific. And if you're new, well, welcome aboard, right? It was terrific. It's fun. But here's the thing that I realized that I'm fortunate enough to understand now, but when I was younger, I didn't understand. And hopefully you'll gain from my experience. And that is the following. You see, I have no idea why the Google algorithm decided to bless me with all these views, right? It just happened. So I'm not worrying about it. I'm not even thinking about it. I'm not even paying attention. Before, when I felt that I had actual control over the number of subscribers and views that I had, I would be much more concerned whether the videos I was doing would affect my subscribers or not. But with this sudden growth spurt, I realized that I didn't make it happen. It was just the Google algorithm. It was just, the literal deus ex machina, right? It was just the machine of the gods. It just came down and just presto changeo, I've got a huge audience. And so this is what I'm deliberately doing. I'm not worrying about it. I'm not thinking about it. I'm relaxed about it. And I wish I'd had the wisdom to do so when I was younger. Because I look back at when I was younger and I worried so much about things that I had absolutely no control over. For instance, in this situation, insofar as the Google algorithm, if I'd been doing this channel, I don't know, 20 years ago, you know what I would have been doing? I would have been trying to crack the code as to why it was I had a sudden surge in subscribers, and I would have tried to do the exact same thing over and over and over again in order to grow the channel more. I would have thought that that was the way to go, to do the same thing over and over and over again, to crack that code, to get that explosive growth. And that would mean doing a whole bunch of more videos about, you know, the two subjects that I talked about that brought about this surge in viewers and subscribers, which is never date a girl over the age of 25 and avoid women who are damaged goods, right? How many ways can you say those two sentences? As far as I'm concerned, you can only say them 2 times. Anything else after that is just repetition, right? But 20 years ago, I would have repeated myself over and over and over again, just you know, crushing that into the ground, right? Because I would have figured that that's the way to grow. You see? And I would have been worried if one of these repetitive videos had not performed. If you know, the one video I did got 250,000 views, and then the second one got 300,000 views. So I would have done another one and another one and another one. And if at any point I'd gotten less than, I don't know, maybe 100,000 views, I would have been terrified. I would have been going like, what's going on? I would not have recognized that what was going on, the surge in subscribers and views, was just beyond my control. It was just happening. I was just along for the ride. You see, and it's very, very difficult, especially when you're a young man, especially when you're a driven young man, especially when you're a man who's got energy, who's got drive, who's got push, and you don't ever want to feel that your destiny is outside of your control. But see, a lot of times it is. A lot of times things are happening and you have no idea why they're happening. They're just sort of happening to you. And you got to go along with it. The good luck and the bad luck, you see? And so what you have to do is sort of like ignore, or at least be relaxed about those things that you cannot control, and worry only about those things that you can control. And this is actually tricky. Because when you're young especially, you think that you have more control over things than you actually do. But when you start looking at your situation rationally, when you start like really just paring down things, you start to realize that you have a very limited control over the reality around you. Most of the times things are happening around you that are really outside of your control. Or you might have just a minimal amount of control, and it's not really control, it's just a mere minimum of influence over a situation. To use my case, because it's an easy case and we can discuss it, and you and I know what we're talking about. See, in the case of my channel, right? A lot of people are saying that I should change the thumbnails to optimize, you know, the YouTube algorithm, and change the description and do this and that and blah, blah, blah. And the thing is, see, what's the point? I might be able to influence things slightly, I mean less than 5%. I'm not really going to change anything. The Google algorithm wants to bless me with a large audience. I'll get a large audience. The YouTube algorithm wants to doom me with a very small or limited audience. The algorithm will do it. I don't really have control over it. I can change the thumbnails until I'm blue in the face. I can rewrite all the descriptions and what have you, and the tags and all this crap, and the effect is going to be marginal. Now, a lot of people are going to say that those little marginal effects add up. That's very true. That is true in many ways and in many situations. Doing the little things, the tiny little things, can influence the situation, can increase your percentages by just a little bit. That's absolutely true. But you'll find for the most part that it will influence and perhaps tip the scales a little bit, but it's not really going to be decisive. Maybe in the aggregate, maybe if you do it every day over a long enough period, it will happen. Like, for instance, in my own case, I've been making, I think, fairly good videos for the past year and a half. At least I put a lot of care and effort into them, right? Now, I put a lot of care and effort into these videos and try to make them as good as possible. I do all the little things to make the videos good because I want to be proud of the content that I'm making, right? But see, it took a year and 3 months for my channel to take off. did all those little things that I did on every single little video, did they add up and somehow it got me to this position? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. The answer is obscure. And so that's the point I'm trying to make. See, you're never really going to know. So instead of worrying about that which you do not know and cannot know, worry about what you do know, what you can know, what you can control. Okay? Deliberately look at a situation you're involved in and recognize this area is outside of my control, this area is completely in my control, and there's this little gray area where I could influence things for the better, but I really don't have much control over it. I just can improve my odds. You see what I'm saying? Try to do that, because what happens is that, and what happened to me, is that a lot of times I would worry and spend a disproportionate amount of my time worrying about things that were clearly beyond my control. And worse than that, I was worrying about things that were beyond my control or outside of my control, and neglecting the things that I actually did control, the things that I could actually influence for the better. I ignored them, because I was so preoccupied with worry. And that's the thing, see, worry. Ultimately, if there's one thing I truly regret as a man of 50, is the times I spent worrying about things that I had no influence whatsoever. They were going to happen or not happen, irrespective of whatever I did. Of course, I had to do the best I could. I mean, like, for instance, when I got published, I had to write a book that was actually decent, right? Actually, something that was actually publishable. But I couldn't control whether I would be published or not. There was so many factors, so many variables, that it was just beyond my control. The only thing I could focus on was that which I was writing, because that was the only thing I truly had control over. And sometimes I didn't worry enough about that. And I would spend days, and sometimes weeks worrying about things that were just stupid to worry about because they were outside of my control. Don't do that. Don't spend your time on nonsense that you can't control, you can't influence in any way. See? Don't. And it's very easy to fall into that trap, because when you're young, you don't quite understand the limitations of your power. Your power to influence the reality around you. But see, that's one of the important lessons of growing up. And it's something that you have to you have to bump up against those limits as quickly as possible. You have to understand where it is that your will, your agency ends, and for all intents and purposes, chance begins. You can push those limits, certainly, and you should try to push those limits. But you have to recognize that there comes a point where worrying about something is stupid because you're not going to influence it. So don't bother about worrying about that. Okay? I hope this helps.